Hi, it's Vera. Welcome to episode 2 of the PL Pod. A new adventure can be a little nerve-wracking for everyone, and the same is true for me. So thank you to all of you who commented on the PL Pod's first episode. There's always room for improvement and fresh ideas. So if anyone has a suggestion for a future podcast or any suggestions, my contact information is on the Sudbury Library website. As I mentioned in last month's podcast, Greater Sudbury is fortunate to have a creative population from all of its centres. I'd like to acknowledge the wonderful poem written by Laura Forshoe of Dowling titled Celestial Vista. This poem was published in Good Times magazine. It's available by subscription, and you might want to consider one because who doesn't appreciate reading about good times, and they come to your mailbox. And I don't own shares in that magazine. At some point, when we are able to congregate, I plan to offer the voices of other poets and writers in the area. But for now, it's going to be my voice you hear. The poetry you hear today, though, was written by members of the Greater Sudbury community. I'm a past president of the Sudbury Writers Guild and an active member. So using the Writers Guild's Facebook group page, I issued an invitation to members to submit haiku and senryu written in this time of pandemic and self-isolation. I've selected a number of the poems contributed, and with the permission of the poets, I'll read them for you today. These poets are a blend of experienced and inexperienced writers. And first up are the poems of Bernie Hughes. Bernie is an attendee at the Thursday open mics hosted at the Mackenzie branch of the library when they are open. And Bernie's poems read, Robins have arrived, but not the warmth of sunshine. Sorry, no worms today. Flowered hands baking bread, ancient art and history, but rats, no more yeast. Yvette Frank is one of our city's closet poets. Her work usually employs humor, and this is her first attempt at writing haiku. A silent killer moves slowly through the world, havoc in its wake. A bird on a branch, eyeing worms after the rain. Lunch is now ready. Rennie de Groot hails from Nova Scotia, a first-generation Canadian of Dutch parents. She is the author of 3 novels, the first of which was shortlisted for the Kobo Emerging Writer Prize. She also has a nonfiction military history book, several short stories, and recorded song lyrics to her credit. And Rennie's poems. Crushed blossoms 'neath a bedroom window. Inside, his dead brother. Fresh baked bread, wrapped in paper, a gift left on my front porch. Actually, those 2 poems represent exactly what we're going through now. There is a lot of grief and there is a lot of generosity. And I'm proud to be a Canadian at this time. Dr. David Robinson is an economist in the School of Northern Development at Laurentian University. He played a leading role in identifying and promoting the mining supply and services sector in Sudbury, Ontario, and in creating Laurentian's new School of Architecture. He's written a couple of economics books that he says no one reads, and over 200 columns on economic issues in the popular press. Mother close to term. Young father needs haircut. So much to do. Long-handled shovel. Fresh black earth. Aspirin bottle. Emily DeAngelis is a writer and teacher from Sudbury. She has written a variety of short stories and poems for children and young adults. Her writing is often inspired by the physical environment surrounding her. Most recently, Emily has completed a young adult novel entitled Stones of Burren Bay, a magical realism story inspired by the lighthouses and bays of Manitoulin Island. Wind rushing bare trees, no leaves to hide brittle roots, already dead. Thomas Leduc is a former poet laureate of Greater Sudbury and current president of the Sudbury Writers Guild. His poetry book, Slagflower, Poems Unearthed from a Mining Town, was published by Latitude 46 in 2019. Spring fever arrives. The road, a line we don't cross. My parents visit. Summer bathing suit. 10-minute abs, twice a day. Flattening the curve. The TV, a shrine we worship 6 feet apart. Our house is a church. David LeBlanc is new to writing. He has completed a young adult novel and is engaged in rewrites. These are his poems. Cold, sunny day. Dogs being walked, socially distanced. Misinformation. Trust dissolves. What to believe. Betty Biggs Gannett has had numerous short stories published in magazines, newspapers, anthologies, and online. She is now working on a 12-book mystery series and a historical novel around her mother's life during the Depression years. Betty is a member of the Sudbury Writers Guild. Out the side window, the dog, dead trees, my pandemic view. In the kitchen, pandemic shopper checks freezer. I like that one. Nancy Doe is a retired English teacher. She loves Canadian writers, poets, and pop culture, especially music. She also has started to write more seriously in her retirement. And Nancy writes, Daily screen update. Numbers slowly decline. Digging Trudeau's hair. I'd like to point out the flashes of humor in that last poem, What Is It with Politicians and Hair? Also recall the references to birds and worms from Bernie Hughes and Yvette Frank, and the bread baking from Rennie and Bernie. Collective consciousness is a real deal. I mean, how often have you had a thought of something and then heard someone say something almost the same, either on the news or read it on social media? It's a real deal. At this point, I would like to say that the ability to observe your surroundings is a solid basis for writing haiku and senryu. If you are still and quiet and open your senses, you will be surprised at what you will notice. Both haiku and senryu often come from what you notice in that second in time. I'd like to read a couple of my own poems. Loneliness tea, isolation cookies, coming rain. Anticipation, one ripple, then another, fever days. And because that's a lot of haiku and senryu, I would like to read a longer piece right now, and it's titled, Day, Oh My God, of COVID-19. Another big breakfast, as if food grows on trees and we own the orchard, and coffee served in large cups, so by the time you get half done, you need a warm-up. We sit at the table staring out at the empty street where last month snowbanks narrowed us in. Morning sun contrasts with distant dark gray sky, and I ask myself, not in jest, how fortunate am I? Thank you for listening. Next month, I'm planning to change things up here in the pod. Please stop by. This is Vera saying bye for now.